good morning and welcome to today's episode of Espace TV. We're very lucky today. We've got Tony Prescott of GTS joining us on the couch, and I'm here with Jeff, Commercial Director too. So to start things off, Tony, talk to us a little bit about GTS and tell us exactly what GTS is and does and what role sustainability plays within GTS, but also your history with sustainability in mind.
Okay, thanks Kelly, it's very nice to be here, so thanks for inviting me. So yeah, my background, I've been working in intermodal logistics most of my career.
That's how we know each other, isn't it?
Absolutely, many years. So I have quite a wide experience in Europe of intermodal logistics. The GTS group is really a family business. It's actually an Italian-based company based in Bari in the south of Italy. They have GTS has its own rail company, so it provides door-to-door logistic solutions using its own trains and 45-foot containers. So it moves a lot of goods from the south of Europe, Italy, Greece and Turkey, to in the north, the Benelux, UK, Ireland and Germany.
Things have evolved since we spoke. When I was operational looking after Italy, I used to call you if I needed an intermodal solution from the south, for example. But we chatted more recently, didn't we, about Iberia, and we've spoken a few moments ago about Poland and Germany. And this is what we're seeing, where I think intermodal transport, it's so much more than it was when I was looking after things operationally for Italy. What part has GTS played in that, in sort of expanding the infrastructure further afield from Italy?
Well, I think GTS, since it started as a family business, it now has nearly 50 rail locomotives.
Wow.
And each one costs about 5 million.
Ooh,
so the group recently invested about 100 million in 20 new rail locomotives, which the last of those are coming into use now, actually.
Is this because you are seeing an increased appetite for sustainable logistics, or is this because your clients want those solutions, or is this because it's a strategic thing for GTS just to grow and you've sort of made plans in that regard? How would you place the...
Yeah, I would say it's a very strategic investment for the longer term, because the reality of the market is that a lot of companies have a sustainability strategy, and obviously, the way I look at it, the world and different countries have their own net zero targets.
They do, and they're all quite different, aren't they?
Absolutely, they're not really aligned.
No, they're not.
And people have gone off and done their own thing. Then different industries have their own strategy. So,
KPIs
for example,
as well.
Exactly. The British Retail Consortium, which is things like Aldi and M&S, some of the big retailers. They're committed to carbon net zero by 2040 and scope 3 by 2035.
And they expect the same from their supply chain, don't they, from other people? So this is why there's been such an investment.
So do you see more global interconnectivity, or is it very much within Europe? Or obviously Bari's South Italy is very well connected in terms of the world. Do you see more coming in intermodally and being shipped on rail?
Definitely. I mean, one of the big growth areas for GTS has been setting up actually domestic rail for some of the big shipping lines. So Maersk, CMA, CGM. We run domestic trains in Italy purely to take goods off the road for the shipping lines.
Wow, okay.
And in some cases, it's a combination of sea and then intermodal.
Fantastic.
Collecting the full end-to-end chain.
So you're collaborating with shipping lines, other carriers within Europe, and sort of growing in that regard. So you're in a big name, not just in the UK for us guys, for us here. It's a European brand.
Yes.
Because you obviously haven't come from the south of Italy today to join us.
No, unfortunately not. No, I mean we I think the core DNA of GTS is sustainability. It's a family business. It's a very intimate business, and the owner. We had a conference with about 200 stakeholders a couple of years ago, and the owner, he actually had a video of his daughter, sort of saying to everybody in the room, "Look, my life is in your hands.
How powerful is that?
The business decisions that you guys make will affect me and our generation.
That's such a powerful way of thinking about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because of course there's so many things you've got to do and pay the bills and such like. Actually, you've got to try and shape this now for the next generation, which is a really big responsibility.
Absolutely.
This is how we are as the four of us, sort of the leadership team here at Espace. We've all got children of a certain age, and this is why it's important anyway. Yeah. But it's important for the future of our children, isn't it? And I think you become more conscious of that, don't you, as a parent? But for our team and for everybody else. So we go into trade association meetings where sustainability is top of everybody's agenda, and us, we're sort of launching our sustainable logistics options. But actually, we've been offering sustainable solutions for many years. But it hasn't. People haven't been making the choice, and the appetite's not been there due to sustainability. It was cost, or it was actually much cheaper back then, wasn't it?
Yes.
So that was the rationale back then.
That's a really interesting move, though. You mentioned about moving goods on rail, and the business was set up because it's green, and yet we always thought of intermodal as being cheap. But for your company to be set up as a green solution before that was even spoken about is really interesting.
I mean, the challenge has been that, on a macro level, everybody has a sustainability policy. All companies, if you go on the website, all about sustainability. Then when you go and have a conversation with a logistics manager, he's using road a lot. And, even in Italy, 12% is by intermodal now. And in Europe, it's 12-15%. So, but the challenge is it's got to be aligned with the business reality of companies having to make a profit.
Exactly.
I think one major supermarket asked one of their big product suppliers, what's your sustainability strategy? And they said to make a profit. Because if we don't survive.
Exactly.
So I think where we're trying to tap into is it's got to be realistic and fit in with the wider
it does
business needs.
From your perspective, what are the biggest environmental and operational benefits of shifting cargo to rail? What would you say they are?
Well, I think the obvious one is a reduction in emissions. So obviously by rail you can reduce by 70-75%. And a truck from Italy to the UK will emit about 1.5 tons of CO2. Whereas by intermodal it's about 400 kilos. So it's a big difference. But I mean, there's loads of others like congestion, air quality, air pollution, accidents. If you think one train has 33 containers on, 33 lorries on the road, what that does in terms of congestion. Driver shortages, that's still there. So it's not quite so acute at the moment. But the minute trade picks up, it'll be right back there as a major problem.
Of course.
So I think that's where intermodal and sea become good solutions.
Theft and security is a really big one as well, isn't it? Because you're sat on a rail, and nobody's going to go and get a truck up to a rail car to go and take stuff off, and it seems so easy and so prevalent now in the UK to have your curtain slashed and a load taken off, and there's always that risk of security.
Absolutely, that's a great point. I mean, that's so common. I mean, even full trailers get stolen. And that's a real sort of challenge for logistics companies as well as producers.
So despite the benefits that you've just talked about with the shift from road to rail, we've noticed obviously we've got a big span of customers across different sectors, different size businesses, and the appetite for sustainable logistics is there, but only with sort of key sectors we're noticing, and only with big players, because like you say, they've got these high level KPIs that they're reporting on. They move down through the ranks, as we know. We chose to become EcoVadis accredited 3 years ago now for this very reason. It's been really beneficial to us as a business anyway, as well as connecting us with all of these other people. But the appetite in general for us that we see amongst our sort of clients, it's not quite there yet, is it? No. Cost and transit time we've talked about. The people on the desk that are booking the freight, that's high on their agenda, isn't it? So do you think there are any other factors holding people back? I do. I think it's the awareness. I think it's a mindset thing, because
to give you an example, a few years ago, I mean, our group offers great solutions to help customers reduce their emissions. But then, okay, in some cases they're taking advantage, in some cases they're still looking at cost as the main driver. And if the market's down, road prices can come down, people switch to road. So that... But then you look at your own business, and we looked at our own, just in our UK company, for example, what are we actually doing ourselves? And we need a robust carbon reduction plan. To be honest, we didn't at that point have the knowledge. You know, we had some knowledge, but it's this barrier of, we know where we want to get to, but we don't quite have the... So how do we bridge that? So we went to a workshop with a local OES Net Zero organisation, and we developed a full carbon reduction plan.
Over what time period are you talking then? Like, was it staged and phased, or like, tell us a bit more about it?
It's a 10-year plan. So we've got a 10-year plan over the next 10 years with our business as we scale it, with a whole suite of, you know, short-term things that we can do, which absolutely have to be done. And then getting the data, getting information from our suppliers, our partners, our customers, so that, because every company should be measuring certain things. So, you know, if they then pass you the information, you can measure it. The key to everything is measuring
data.
Otherwise you have no idea if you're not measuring certain things.
And this is exactly what we've found with our EcoVadis assessment each year. You know, we find the measurement, we find the point, how do we improve on it? And that's across the board for multiple and
don't you think
measures.
The challenge we've tried to do is make it fun, make it so actually you want to do it, and it's in
I think that's the good thing about the project, because sort of year one, there's so many quick wins to have, and there's so many. We had a guy here who's measuring the bins, weighing the bins, and it's all totted up. And actually, okay, so what can we do to reduce this? And it became sort of something really fun, challenge.
But fun thing.
It was great to see for engagement.
And you feel you're making
team are
progress.
on board when you can show everybody the benefits and what everybody needs to do. And I think that's you know, we're an employee-owned business, so I guess our mindset is slightly different to others. I don't know, but we do have that buy-in from the team, and everybody wants to be part of that. They understand that sustainability is a key strategy for us, so everybody wants to be part of that to help drive it. But it is key, isn't it, that you get everybody on board. And not just internally within your business, but like you say, you other stakeholders, because if your suppliers and your other people are giving you the right measures, then you can move on, and it just becomes more streamlined and effective for everybody then going forward. I guess the issue is all of these different stakeholders are different sizes and coming from different places, so they measure in different ways at the moment. So it's trying to get to a level where everybody's got that consistency, but we know it's coming. You know, it's not regulated at the moment, but we know that it will be.
Exactly,
it's coming, isn't it?
And that's education, isn't it? Because almost the challenges that are coming down the line. So if companies are ignoring it, that's fine for now, but at some point. And I think the other key point for me is, you know, sharing expertise. So we're sort of trying to connect with and align with sustainability managers in our and our customers. So before it would be just the logistics manager, for example. So we align with them. And actually that's a whole other world of even the logistics manager might be at some point having to be more aligned with their... And then
they're going to be coming at it from different ways.
Absolutely. And you know, big companies obviously are, you know, have a lot of expertise and resource on it. Smaller companies probably don't. So again, we can help educate them. We're educating ourselves as we go along as well. And I think if you have that mindset, because let's face it, everybody, you mentioned sustainability, you know, everybody's so bored of it. And
people talk about greenwashing, don't they? Just ticking boxes, and it really shouldn't be a box ticking exercise at all. Moving on, let's talk about infrastructure. So how challenging is it to offer end-to-end rail solutions from Italy to Europe or further afield? Can you sort of talk us through any key gaps that you've seen and that you feel need addressing?
Yeah, so there's a few different gaps. Firstly, I would say investment in actual assets.
Yeah.
There's not many companies that are investing in more rail assets. A lot of rail companies are losing money. A lot of money. A lot of rail companies are reducing services. Some of the big rail companies,
for cost reasons, or just because?
Yeah, because they're not profitable. And what's happened is, with rail, obviously part of it is where there's either subsidies, which have been gradually withdrawn. There've been energy costs that have increased significantly. The cross-border, each country has a different sort of rail network. Every time you cross a border, the communication is it's a different system. Germany has a major problem with the state of its rail infrastructure. So there's an ongoing, as I'm sure you're aware, infrastructure works over many years in Germany, which creates delays and so on. So there's a few things there which actually handicap intermodal. They don't make it any easier.
So it's a funding thing. It's different countries need funding from all of the different governments in order to make that better, ultimately, is what we're saying.
Yes.
Because when I called you a few years ago when Jeff and I got invited down to London as part of the SMMT Trade Association, and we met with the Cabinet Office at the time, didn't we, to talk about key challenges that we see as freight forwarders to offer intermodal solutions, and what needed to be done to make it effective so that people would start using it, because the appetite just wasn't where it should be. I mean, that was 3 years ago.
It was, it's a long time.
And the key point from that was infrastructure, being able to offer groupage alternatives that would mimic what we have on the road, because at the moment it's not happening. But this was the UK government that were asking questions like that. So you would hope, I'm sure it's going on in every other country, everybody's working together to improve infrastructure, to look at funding to help that connectivity. Because it's vastly improved in my 25 years in freight forwarding. And where I would only think of it for Italy, I know that was my market, but it's so much more than that now. Obviously our European full loads, we look at rail alternatives for all of those as well, and we're looking at short sea, we look at so many other things.
I think one of the things that we've become aware of, really, which is in there for a long time, I guess, but it's the silk routes. So you can actually send stuff from China on the rail. We were never really aware of that until we've got issues on the Suez Canal, and all of a sudden people are shouting about things like that. So I think there's probably a lot of unexplored routes which are probably well known in the rail intermodal community. Maybe most people aren't aware of.
Absolutely.
Do you think there are any misconceptions about rail freight or intermodal freight that need debunking from the perspective of the exporter or importer who perhaps are currently hesitant to try it for any reason?
For sure. I think there's some education there. So, for example, we run a train from Bari in the south of Italy to Zeebrugge, which is 48 hours transit. So you could be from Bari into the UK in 4 days by rail. You wouldn't even think that was possible.
No.
Now I appreciate things can happen.
Strikes was always a big hurdle for me back in the day. That's still going on, isn't it?
But also by road, the road market is very volatile. So some weeks there's a lot of availability. Other weeks, all of a sudden there isn't, and the prices double and so on. So I think the key is planning ahead. So if company A does a deal with company B that's going to produce a product for them, they discuss the production, the labelling, the packaging months ahead. So all that's done, all that's planned. They look at volumes, production, then it's produced. The logistics bit, which is the final delivery, which is 3 or 4 days or 5 or 6 days. Within that period, what difference does 1 or 2 days make if it's planned properly?
But this is what we're seeing. We just did a podcast about this actually, where where whereas a couple of days is neither here nor there. If sustainability is the key driver here, then, like you say, plan accordingly. And we're seeing that across the board. We've talked about time critical freight and how that's changed over the years. Equally, I would say that is down to sustainability and better planning and better systems and better data.
Planning,
it all
technology.
comes back down to that, doesn't it?
Yes,
it does.
There is no need really with, the amount of calls we used to have in the day where somebody has forgotten to do something, but a system doesn't allow that to happen any longer.
No.
Yes.
So we have seen a lot of that work we used to pick up all the time.
Yes.
That's sort of disappeared now.
It leads me quite nicely into my next question, actually. Do you see technology or digital tools playing a role in making sustainable logistics more attractive?
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's a few different angles on this. One is the planning and sharing information, forecasting, especially where companies maybe move stock into an intermediate warehouse or whatever, where different parts of the supply chain don't have visibility of, then all of a sudden the stock's gone.
Yes.
But if you just plan further ahead, you can... So the forecasting is one part. Within the rail infrastructure, digitisation of the different networks in different countries, which is something that's being, it's being worked on. So different companies are investing a lot of money in that. But that's something which will smooth the. A train from Italy goes through Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, or Holland, 4 different countries involved. So that side of it for sure. And then the reporting, trackers, knowing where a container is at any moment in time. Again, that side of it can.
Do you follow a very similar system to the ocean then, that you can tell where a container is? Is that available on the rail now?
It is, yeah. And a lot of companies are, having trackers on containers, so where they are at any point in time. Obviously,
it's actually the container rather than the paperwork. So I know we used to follow a waybill around rather than actually following the vehicle, but that physically on the.
I mean that's the next that's something that technology's there, obviously, but that's in terms of implementation. I mean, obviously trains are tracked, so where they are at any moment in time, 24/7. But a container can be on a train, but it can also be on a ship and then a truck. And so it's the overall thing. So again, I think digitisation. I mean, this is where things will have to change. But I think it's the awareness and maybe education, as you said before. Traditionally, a logistics manager is used to booking a truck. Maybe a bit frightened of the rail.
I think that's the thing as well. It's quite a difficult area in which to go and book a train. It is difficult, I would say. Somebody's been involved in road transport for 25 years now. It would take a little bit of time to go and access a rail, whereas I can go and phone and get a truck just like that, really. So it is that educational thing.
A different model. But it's
I think that the it's like anything, the planning and the setup, because for example, because we own the train, at the end we can manage the capacity of that and the demand. And obviously, there's peaks and troughs in demand. So how do you then manage that to avoid backlogs? And then let customers down. So that has to be smart. And if somebody suddenly books twice what they usually book, that's going to affect everybody. So
So maybe some inside information then. If you've got freight flowing from Italy into the UK, have you got an equal amount coming back from UK into Italy, or is there capacity there? Is there an opportunity for people to go and buy that freight cheaper?
Southbound there's an imbalance for everybody. Everybody has the same challenge. So there's sort of 3 containers coming in and 1 going back. Traditionally, so. It's always a challenge. But again, collaboration there is key. We're all operating.
It is. So finally, Tony, if we look ahead, what's your outlook for sustainable logistics, or more specifically intermodal freight? Where's the real opportunity for rail, do you feel, and how do you see the next 5 years?
I see the next 12 months as being a very difficult trading period for a lot of companies. I think a lot of logistics companies are not making lots of money, and costs have risen, demand has come down, so there's challenges there. Again, a lot of customers, if you like, also have their own challenges. But beyond that, I'm very, very optimistic because the benefits are there. I think directionally, sustainability has to be part of the future.
Absolutely.
The shortage of capacity, and I think this drive, education, but then making it a practical solution. Because it's no good if there's barriers that you've got to be honest and address. What do we need to do to switch? And then we can't maybe switch 100%, but we can switch 50%. Well, that's a start.
And it's got to
that's great.
That's it. It's when we were looking from the beginning of our sustainability journey about things that we could do within the business. The advice that was given to us was just take small steps each time, small steps forward, and all of that will add up. And that's the point, I guess. We're dealing with so many different businesses of different sizes in different sectors with different challenges. Everybody's approach is different, but everyone is focused on being more sustainable. So collaboratively, people are making an effort. They're just doing it at different levels. And I guess in transport and freight forwarding, we're sort of piecing it all together. To make it work. Absolutely, and talk to each other. That's it. All of our companies, we could learn loads from you. You may be able to learn a few things from us. We've learned a lot. With our customers, we learn. Our suppliers, we learn. Our partners. It's just getting that engagement. We're all in it together. Absolutely. At the end of the day.
We had a brief discussion earlier about Brexit, about the sharing of information at Brexit, and I feel like we're here with sustainability now. That suppliers, freight forwarders, customers, we're willing to share some information that's for a greater good. And again, us as freight forwarders, we can access for our customers the likes of yourselves, who they might not be able to access the likes of yourselves. Everyone's got a part to play, but it's about a collaboration. Absolutely. And sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. I was going to say thank you. If you wanted to add anything else. No, I think it's just the drive and the passion and the that's the key to it. I agree. To keep that drive there. I think never give up. No, never give up. I think that's a good motto for anyone in freight forwarding, isn't it? Everyone in general, really. But it's been a really, really interesting chat. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming to visit us. No, pleasure. It's been great to be here. Thank you.